Ooh, a spicy question. I
because
love
the writing is sort of everything, right? Like you kind of can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
So some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, but I wanted more of this. So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. This week we have two guests, a pair of freelance editors. One of them is also a publisher at one of Simon & Schuster's new commercial fiction imprints, and the other is a books journalist of 15 years and edits for Stylist magazine. It's Samantha Eades and Francesca Brown. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming on, the two of you. Let's jump right in and kick things off with your exciting new collaboration, and that is BookFix. Which one of you has the better elevator pitch for what BookFix is?
I'm going to let Sam take this one because it was her, but it was your idea initially. Sam came to me because Sam lives quite near me, so we're always bumping into each other, like at school drop-off and over coffees and things like that. And she cornered me in the leisure centre one day. I know, it's so glamorous. And this was her idea. Say your idea.
So I guess BookFix is a safe space for writers to share with two very experienced editors their work. And I would say our kind of USP is, I think we're brilliant at helping a writer build confidence back up in their writing, particularly if they've had a knock. So it is we are a multitude of things, but we are primarily a monthly clinic, online clinic where you can book a half-hour or hour-long Zoom call with the two of us, where you can share your first three chapters and your synopsis. But we also offer developmental edits, submission package reviews. So we are a one-stop shop for writers who want to boost their confidence in their writing.
Okay.
Plus you get two editors for the price of one. So that's even better. So you get two opposing points of view as well, oftentimes, and Sam's brilliant at talking people up and being really enthusiastic. Whereas I think I come in with a slightly more, not jaded, but maybe an objective point of view. And then that's a really lovely thing, so that you are getting this full sort of 360 treatment at the same time as having a really safe space where you've got two people rooting for you.
Okay. Yes, that sounds good. Everyone likes two for the price of one. There's other people in this space, of course. There's other companies in this space. Did you guys have a look at what sort of other editorial offerings there were in the market when you were putting together this kind of product and your packages?
Yeah, we absolutely did. And at the time that I sort of came up with the idea, I had just started a kind of freelance career. And so I've been working with a lot of the kind of companies. So Curtis Brown Creative, Faber Academy, Blue Pencil, Emily Randall, all kind of absolutely kind of fantastic and established companies. And I guess the sort of difference in our offering is firstly, something that Fran and I are really kind of passionate about is offering editorial support at a friendlier price point, because, freelance editors can be incredibly expensive. And, we're really kind of passionate about supporting writers from kind of lower income backgrounds. So actually price was something that we thought was something that could be a point of difference for us. And then Fran, I guess Fran has kind of touched on the fact that we are offering 2 points of view, which again feels different.
Yeah, I think that's really important, is that a lot of the lovely writers that we've worked with so far, it's quite a leap to be able to invest in your own writing. And I think if you haven't necessarily got your confidence at the moment, then even just to talk to someone about your project and literally say, I've got these ideas, I'm really not sure about them, or where I'm going, or what my genre is, or even if it's worth persevering with, to just be able to have that chance to sit and talk to two people who know what they're talking about and understand the market and understand readers and what people want to read and what will make a splash right now. I think it's really important to be able to do that without having to give up your life savings. And I think that was really what was missing, and that's what we want to try and step into. So, our prices start from £80 for half an hour. So even if it's a case of, I've got this brilliant idea, I'm not sure where to take it, do I even, because to write 95,000 words, I mean, that's a massive undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
So even just to have someone say to you, I love it, you've got a potential here, go away and write 3 chapters, that can be such a boost. And, or it might be a case of, you're barking down the wrong alley. That is not the phrase, is it? Barking up the wrong tree. Yeah. So even if it's a case of, right, scratch that, but you've got this really good kernel here of a really lovely idea, why don't you pursue that? You haven't, wasted your money. You're actually going to get the foundations of something to work with.
Okay. So there's also sort of an element of tough love as well, where you might need
Definitely
to say to someone...
from Fran.
Not from Sam.
Sam is very much the sunshine to my grey day.
Okay.
We were joking that whenever we see each other, we look like what they called in Wicked. What the two called, Sam?
Oh my God, Glinda and Elphaba.
Yeah. But it's just more the case of it's really interesting because as a books editor, I get sent something around 200 proofs a week. I mean, They are piling up beside me. And there are so many titles going to market that then just go nowhere. It's really heartbreaking to see because, especially for publishing, there's fewer and fewer places where authors can be covered and to break out. And it's really important for these writers that if they're going to have a go at writing the book that's really in their heart and what they're capable of producing, that they get the best start that they can. And often it is a case of just clarifying with them, where are they at? What's their genre? And oftentimes, as I'm sure any writer will understand, there's a case of just too many ideas. So being able to sort of just talk things through with someone who's also very, very positive and someone who's just very, very straight talking, I think is a real release for them.
Okay. Yeah. And also to speak to people. People often say this about when they manage to sign with an agent and it feels like someone within the publishing industry, a professional, has given you the thumbs up. So I guess being able to speak with two people who have a kind of established and long publishing careers, that's a validation in of itself about the thing that you're writing.
Exactly. And I think what we've also discovered is, and Sam can probably expand on this better than I can, agents are quite overwhelmed at the moment, I think, with the number of clients that they have to have. So actually, I think writers are also looking for their own support system, which might not necessarily be available to them, even if they've got an agent.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of the sort of feedback that we're getting. And we are kind of almost sort of filling a kind of communication gap. And that kind of overwhelm in terms of agents isn't specific to literary agents. It's kind of across the kind of publishing industry. We're publishing much more kind of books and teams, headcounts have been reduced. And I think, there's lots of kind of industry conversation around kind of like ghosting and that kind of drop in communication between the industry and writers. So it's nice to be doing something positive and kind of practical to help with that.
Yeah, I've heard firsthand of editors being very overwhelmed with the number of books they're working on and not being able to get back to the authors as quickly as they would want to.
Yeah, and I mean, that was very kind of much my experience when I was in-house before I went freelance. Like, I remember when I had to do my handover document, I'd got 20 authors.
Wow.
And was also running a massive team and running the budget and doing the strategy and editing the books and publishing the books. Like, I used to beat myself up on the fact that I didn't reply to people as quickly as I wanted to, but genuinely just sort of sometimes being able to sort of sit at my desk and like respond to emails, like just didn't have the time, was sat in meetings for kind of most of the time. So I can understand and empathize with why people don't respond, because I've been there.
Yeah, and sometimes people just want to be in the loop. Authors just want to be in the loop, and it's like they don't necessarily need anything. It's just like, oh, this is where we're at. This is what's happening right now. It's taking a while, but that's what's happening. Getting back onto BookFix specifically, so this probably wouldn't apply to the sort of sessions where that people come and they chat with you for half an hour, and you've kind of read a small amount of the manuscript. But when it comes to like doing a full dev edit, if someone wants to do a full developmental edit on their, let's say, 80,000 word manuscript, are there restrictions on what you would edit, or will you edit anything?
That's a very good question. So far, the quality of the work we have had has been outstanding. Like, I've been blown away. And there's going to be, I think some of the books we've worked on in the next couple of years are going to be major breakout titles. Like, I just cannot believe the quality of the work that we've had. Having said that, I think we're looking at, if anybody's using AI, obviously there's a huge conversation about that, then we're going to be drawing the line at that, because it's really difficult to work with. I've done a developmental edit on an AI piece without realizing previously, and it was soul destroying. It was like it was like, you haven't bothered to read this book. Why is anybody else? It's just me. It's just me that's wading through it.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be becoming more and more difficult to spot. There's this real question over what you can tell as original work. But at the moment, you can definitely tell the difference between someone who's writing something from their heart and someone who's just gone and put in a few prompts and put together a sort of almost like a mirage of a book.
Yes.
So we are going to be having, like, learned valuable lessons from what's gone before. We will be sort of like looking at people's work and going, yes, we can work with you. No, we can't work with you. And here's the reasons why.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Would there be a situation where you get something and you're like, this is, it would be, we're talking developmental edit would basically be an entire rewrite of like an entire thing where you'd be like, look, I think this will cost you a lot of money, and I think you're basically just going to have to rewrite this entire thing. And would you say that to someone if you felt like it was just not in a good enough place for you to do that, even if it wasn't AI?
Yeah, I think we absolutely would. And I think both of us wouldn't feel comfortable sort of taking someone's money if we actually didn't think we could help get it to a publishable standard. And Fran's right, like, actually sort of, but we can kind of tell from how people, when they come to us with a pitch, like often, they've written books before, or, their agents told them to kind of invest in kind of professional support. Like, people are kind of coming to us, and we can kind of tell already from how they're kind of talking about their book and their writing process that we can help them. So,
okay. Yeah. That's interesting. I've not heard of agents telling authors to send to go to freelance editors before, but that's interesting.
I think that's happening kind of more and more,
right? Because everyone's just so busy, I guess.
Yeah, and some of it is like, your agent might be going on maternity leave and there just isn't the kind of person in-house. Sure. Or, I think something that I'm friends with two amazing agents, Sue Armstrong and Nell Andrews. And I think something that gets kind of forgotten sometimes is that until an agent has actually placed your work with a publisher, they're working for you for free.
Yeah.
And, sometimes they're working with a writer for like 2 years, 3 years, like helping them to kind of get the book up to the kind of standard that they think, to be kind of submission ready. And so, I I can kind of see and kind of understand why kind of more agents are kind of saying to writers, you know what, this needs kind of one more round, and I can't see the wood for the trees anymore.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's brilliant is lots of these agents are kind of people that, you know, Fran and I have got kind of professional relationships with.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think I've spoken to some agents recently who, in the bigger agencies, they're actually now employing in-house editors for that, for specific reason. In terms of still on restrictions and things like that, this is more like a broader question in terms of when you apply to an agent as a writer, when you query an agent, you know that agents represent certain genres, and at the same time they'll submit to editors who represent certain genres, imprints, etc. Is there any genre or age range that you guys won't represent, or will you kind of take on anything?
That's a good question. Because I think what we've worked on so far has had a massive range. Right. I mean, there's been femgore and historical fiction and coming of age, some middle grade fantasy, and I think we are applying our skills. If the writing is good enough, then I think, because you're still reading it as a reader, so it does come down to what's the story like, what's the characters like, what is your ability. I think it would absolutely have to depend on the work itself for us to say, actually, no, this isn't our wheelhouse, and probably then to pass it on to someone who is. But so far, we haven't actually, because it's so exciting to work with these authors. Like, it's such a wonderful feeling to like, and this is me being sunshine now, but like, it's a really rewarding process because you're like, wow, these people can really write and they've got something incredible that they've created. And really all they need is some shaving here and there, some rethinking about how they go into the story. And, you know, a lot of it is just there to be shaped and tweaked and to be able to help people and to help them find their confidence and their voice and to feel really good about what they're doing. There's very few roles like that left in the world, I think, you know? I mean, it's such a wonderful experience.
Okay, yeah. So pretty eclectic in terms of you guys are happy to look at most things. Would you said middle grade, but would you go younger than that? Like picture books, things like that? Or is that outside your wheelhouse?
I think probably like super young kind of children's fiction. There are like brilliant kind of specialists in that area. Our first client actually was a brilliant kind of, it was children's, it was kind of, but it was middle grade, wasn't it, Fran?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably, you know, that's like the kind of bottom of the kind of age range for us. And like, you know, not like nonfiction, you know, we have done some kind of work on kind of memoirs, but again, there are some fantastic kind of specific nonfiction. I'd say fiction is probably our kind of wheelhouse.
Fiction, and then middle grade and older.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
Okay. What about, last one on this, what about the more kind of like niche genres? So if you talk like very hard sci-fi or like the kind of subgenres of fantasy when you get into like lit RPG and stuff like that.
Fran?
I'm going to let you take that one.
Probably, again, like, I think there's kind of really niche kind of genres. We have like, I worked on a brilliant kind of speculative fiction novel. I think accessible kind of science fiction and fantasy, yes. But again, that kind of more kind of niche categories, you know, there are so many kind of brilliant editors who are already kind of working in that space. It's a real kind of specialism and is a different approach to editing. And God, I used to have like the privilege of sitting next to Glance when I was in house at Orion. And like, I just remember looking over my shoulder at one of those editors and like, you know, deep in a kind of, you know, 200,000 word kind of manuscript, like editing it at a real line level. And I just think that's such a specialist skill. I think probably, that's kind of outside our wheelhouse.
I think the good thing is as well is, if people come to us, like Sam's knowledge of the publishing industry, whether it's like agents or other freelance editors, is so brilliant that we'll be able to point people in the right direction. I mean, once again, going back to the ethos of, this has to be accessible and it has to be supportive. So we will never dismiss anybody out of hand and just say, oh, this isn't for us, and leave it at that. It would always be a case of, here are your next steps. We're here to, make these things happen in the world at large.
Okay. So if in doubt, you're sort of happy to, if someone sends you something like, oh, do you think this, would you guys work with this? And if the case is that you guys are like, oh no, but actually maybe try sending it over here because maybe they can help you out with that.
You know that bit in Miracle on 34th Street in the old one where they go to Macy's and the Santa Claus is going, oh, well, if you want that toy, you want to go down the road there. And everybody's like, oh, this is an amazing marketing tool. And it's like, basically that, we're stealing it from Santa Claus.
Okay, great. So this is pretty new. You guys have kind of only recently started it. You've had a few clients already. It sort of alludes to the fact that you guys are mostly working with traditional publishing, but have you also worked with some people who are interested in self-publishing or indie publishing their books?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a brilliant writer come to me who'd written a kind of speculative novel that he wanted to self-publish, and supported him on that edit. So yeah, I'm a big fan of self-publishing. I think it can be incredibly lucrative and rewarding for authors. There's an element of the kind of creative control that you have, and also the kind of, the financial model. Like, I think it's really enticing. And it's just another way of kind of finding readers. So we're really happy to kind of support people who, that's their journey to kind of publication. So yeah, very open to writers from there. At some point we'll stop calling it the non-traditional and traditional routes, I think.
Yes. Yeah, because I also think that, and the more I speak to agents and the more I speak to people in publishing, I think that they are actually sort of coming together much more, because there's a sort of new pathway, which is that if you successfully self-publish or indie publish a novel, then often an agent finds that or a publisher finds that directly, and then you get moved into the, in quotes, traditional publishing track.
The kind of biggest title at London Book Fair, which has just kind of been and gone, was All the Young Dudes, which started as fan fiction, and has been kind of snapped up all around the world by kind of traditional publishers. So yeah, there's a real kind of fluidity, and people are kind of building their audiences and in the self-publishing community, and then opting to traditionally publish, and vice versa as well.
Yes. Yeah. Hybrid authors is a new fun thing that's happening. Usually, from the ones I've had on here, though, it's because they're impatient and they want to keep releasing books, and traditional's too slow for them.
Yeah, we hear that a lot.
Okay, cool. So we are at the point in the episode where I ask you both, if you were stranded and trapped, snowed in at a cozy woodland cabin in the middle of nowhere, which book would you each want to have with you?
Shall we start with the sunshine before we move to the storm cloud? So this was a very easy question for me. The book that immediately came to mind was a book called The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. I did the publicity for something like 15 years ago, which is set in 1920s Alaska, and is about a grieving couple in a cabin in the woods who, in a kind of moment of levity, go outside and make a little girl out of snow. And the next day, she may or may not come to life. And it's just beautiful and magical, and was unlike anything I'd ever kind of come across before. And it's kind of filled with hope. So that is what I would pick.
Okay.
Oh, that
Exciting.
makes my heart go weird, that book. I don't think I'd want to be stuck in the cabin with that book. I was going to pick World War Z by Max Brooks because it's an oral history of a zombie apocalypse. And basically, it's full of really useful information about what to do at the end of the world. And if you're stuck in a cozy woodland cabin surrounded by snow, you're going to need some practical skills and some entertainment. So I think that's the perfect marriage for that situation.
Okay, great. That's a great contrast of books there. I like real options there between those two. That's great. Next up, we are going to talk a bit more about publishing and editorial, the role of a publisher, and advice for writers looking to get their manuscripts up to scratch for agents and editors. That will all be in the extended episode available at www.patreon.com/rightandwrong.
And I think the lessons that you take from writing something from yourself will make that, and the book that does make the splash for you, that much stronger, and then even better when your agent turns around and says, "So what's book number 2 going to be?" You're like, "Well, I've already got one in the drawer, thanks."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great advice. That actually, I had Elle McNichol on recently, and she said whenever she's writing, she's always writing the book that she's supposed to be writing, and then she's always cheating on it with a book that she's not supposed to be writing. Yeah, I think that's great advice. Because I think the other thing that enables is that writers put a lot of pressure on themselves, especially if you're under contract, but often if you're not under contract too. But if you're like writing a book that's just like you're not supposed to be writing, or it's like just on the side, then that pressure's somehow relieved, and like you have a bit more freedom with that book. And then who knows, maybe that one ends up being the main one. So.
And it'll probably come out in the writing as well. There'll be a playfulness to it.
Mm-hmm. A naughtiness to it.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. That's the 2 great bits of advice. So the main things are A, know your market, and then B, always be writing. That's great. That's some great advice. Thank you so much, guys. And that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much, Sam and Fran, for coming on and chatting with us and telling us all about BookFix, your awesome new company that you're doing together, editing and all the packages that you're offering. Yeah, it's been awesome chatting with the two of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. It's been really fun.
Yeah, it's been great. And for anyone listening who wants to find out more about BookFix or like maybe look at some of the packages, head over to the website book-fix.com and there's an email which is hello@book-fix.com. To follow Sam and Fran, you can find them both on Instagram. Sam is at Samantha Eades and Fran is at Fran F. Brown. To support this podcast, like, follow and subscribe, join the Patreon for ad-free extended episodes, and check out my other podcast, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes. Thanks again to Sam and Fran, and thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next episode.